Creative leadership is one of the most important aspects, and I think just coming into a creative director role in the last couple of years, I think one of the biggest things that I noticed taking on this role was actually nothing prepares you for leadership. It's a completely different skill set to being a creative, which is challenging and exciting at the same time. But I think for me, the main things are really helping develop your team's skills with what they're good at. So some people are really good at drawing, some people are really good at writing, some people are great at innovative ideas. And I think it's helping, build that up within each of my, team members' skill sets and helping them work on them and flourish and bring out what really their true skill sets and assets are the best way possible. It's a great role as well. I mean, you're working as a creative and you're helping, those around you really flourish in what they enjoy. And it's such a rewarding career as well. I started at such a young age, and an age where I was easily influenced by the way that the industry was going. I've been and seen quite a lot of shift within the industry, especially around the way that we look at how we integrate the customer experience into our thinking as a creative. So I guess, looking back, especially starting in Auckland, New Zealand, a lot of it was more traditional thinking, and how we kind of approach projects was a lot more traditional, with creative working with creative, going away, coming up with the ideas ourselves, which I guess now, and I guess has been a kind of slow transition over the last 10 or so years, has definitely seen it change from the creative team solely responsible of coming up with ideas, and instead kind of working more collaboratively with different skill sets within the business. And also, I guess, the typical thinking that has, around what we're creating as creatives has completely changed as well. Gone are the days of coming up with a big TV ad that's then put online. It's now we're thinking about what the customer wants first and creating work around them, and targeting specific messaging and being a lot more, I guess, direct with who we're talking to as well. So we're not just doing one big broad message going out to everyone. It's a lot more about focusing on individual customers, and I guess serving them advertising that they actually want to see. So it's not just pushing it in front of their face, it's actually allowing customers to discover the advertising too, because we're creating work that they actually want to see because it's targeted at them. So I guess the shift from that big kind of idea into more structured thinking centered around the customer is definitely what I've seen, along with the way that creatives are working a lot more collaboratively. I think so. I think compared to, again, looking at the last 10 years of, my career, we're definitely in need of a new style of leadership. Gone are those old school ways of, I guess, you come in and present an idea and it'll get screwed up and thrown away, to being a lot more open-minded. And I think having creative leadership with people with different disciplines and coming from different backgrounds is very important. Again, to that collaborative working kind of mindset. Just because you're a creative doesn't mean you have to come up with a creative idea. And I think we need leaders that are open to different parts of the business or clients coming up with ideas and working collaboratively. And I guess that's one of the old school mentalities isn't really about that. I guess it was a lot more of this is specifically the role for a creative, and now we need to be a lot more open as far as an idea can come from anywhere. There definitely is the need for a creative partnership, but I think gone are the days that it needs to be an art director and a copywriter. So you're seeing a lot more now, UX teams that are a writer and a UI designer. So I think the partnership is really important as far as bouncing off each other, because that's where the best creative ideas come from, different minds coming together. But I guess with Collective, where I am now, and it was one of the big draw cards to go there, was about a process that we called RID, where basically it's a bit of the 5-4-1 thinking, where you've got 5 minds in a room for 4 weeks to come up with one business solution. So basically it's people from all disciplines of our business. You might have a UX designer, the CEO might be in there, you might have a junior designer, a copywriter, and a strategy type role. So I guess it's 5 different minds coming together. We do 4 weeks of sprints. So basically each week coming together, coming up with a new solution as part of the problem. And I think that's one of the very unique things that we do it with, and I guess relates a lot to design thinking, which is gone are the days where it's just me and my copywriter sitting there coming up with them. It's actually a whole team solution together. And I think it's very crucial to solving customer problems and really helping our clients create the right work. On the design thinking from a creative point of view, because I guess looking at, the main 5 steps, I think heavily still to this day, creative is only involved in the first 3. So really about, that empathizing, defining, and problem solving is majorly where our time is spent still. We don't really go into the prototype and testing side of things. So I think as far as design thinking, it is still a collaborative process that we work with our whole team on. But I guess from a creative point of view, we really do focus on the first, 1 to 3 steps rather than following it all the way through. The type of mindset that you need as a creative leader is definitely, as mentioned before, having an open mind. I guess agile thinking is where our industry is going now, being able to think a lot faster and in that collaborative environment is very important. And I think as well, it is all about what's right for the customer. So making sure that we're creating these solutions that aren't just kind of helping our ego, creating this amazing creative work. Obviously, we want to do that at the same time, but it is really about creating work that's relevant to customers, and being able to understand that and talk to specific audiences is very important. I think that's, again, probably one of the biggest shifts that I've seen over the last 10 years is the rise of obviously more senior females in the creative role. When I started out in the industry, it was a very male-dominant industry. And I think over time what's happened, obviously with the likes of Harvey Weinstein and whatnot, has really opened up the debate of gender equality, which is very important. Again, going back to what I was saying before about making sure that you've got, different opinions, different minds working together. It's very important that within a leadership role, there are all the different minorities, and that's not just gender as well. So making sure, different races, gender, people from all different walks of life can get into those senior positions, because it's very important to have those diverse minds working together. It's definitely been, I guess, for me personally, you see the challenges of, I guess, rising up as a female, and having to have a very strong mindset and belief in yourself as well, which I guess is what's very important to teach our peers and the youth of the industry, that your opinion does matter. And I think as a female, a lot of the times within the industry, not so over the last couple of years, but it's making sure that women feel valued. And that their voice can be heard has been definitely a challenge that I've seen shift. For me personally, I grew up with brothers, so I like the rivalry between the males. So for me, I'm a very strong-minded person that would always make sure my voice was heard, and I would keep saying it until it was heard. So I guess for me, that's allowed me to kind of create the role that I've got and move into a more senior position. But it's something that I'm very passionate about, and I want to work more and more on, like I said, not just with females, but with any minority, to make sure that as they roll up the ranks, that they do feel like they can, move into these senior roles. That's a tricky one. The future is obviously, as we mentioned before, you can't really tell the future. For me, obviously, everything is changing. It's going to always evolve. It's evolved over the last 10 years. That's never going to stop. Creating new concepts of ways of working, a lot more agencies going in-house, us to clients as well, as we know. For me, I always see it as a separate entity. I don't ever see, the shift in-house happening all that often. For me, you do need that separation to really be in the zone and have your own kind of world to come up with these creative concepts. But I think, as mentioned before, the speed in which we're working and how agile an agency can be is what is important. So more and more clients are wanting things faster, but to the same level of, value. So I guess it is how we work as a team that we can get the results out faster, including and bringing the client or the customers along with that journey too is super important. So you're not just going away, coming up with something, it's you're involving everyone. You're involving who's going to be using the end product as soon as possible. It's just have an open mind, use your skill sets and your varied thinking to your advantage. There's no right and wrong in advertising. It's all about solving problems together, working collaboratively. The quicker that you can do that, the better the result's going to be. And I guess it's at the end of the day, creating something that you as a customer would want to see as well. So making sure it's entertaining and you're talking to the right audiences. But keep going, push ahead. It can be a hard slog, but once you get there, it's very rewarding.